Member of the Anti-Poverty Platform, Dr. Randers Raymond G. Siroun, answers Chairman of Parliament Rolando Bryson regarding the proposed labor permits for locals. Member of Parliament in the opposition, Mrs. Sarah Westcott Williams, says all eyes will be on Parliament to get budget passed. But first up, Minister of Justice says he is looking for a solution to deal with an 8-year-old arms issue. Those are the headlines for Wednesday, February 26, 2020. This is SXM Daily News. I'm Valerie Van Putten. Now for the details. Minister of Justice Egbert Doran had a working trip to Curaçao to deal with an 8-year equipment issue with El Hage Arms for, among other things, equipment for the Customs Department, and is looking for a solution to get it dealt with. The minister says it is an issue that has his attention. The minister also updated the media on the plans for the construction of a new prison that will cost some 27 million guilders.
Last week, I also had a working trip to Curaçao at El Hage Arms to deal with a long-standing 8-year issue that has been going on within the Ministry of Justice, particularly within the Department of Customs, of some equipment that they purchased years ago, and there was an issue with getting the equipment here. We are in the meantime in talks with them in terms of getting a solution to have that dealt with. We had to destroy some stuff because of after 4 years, the time elapsed on certain things in regards to safety. So these particular ammunition for the customs had to be destroyed, and that was also a waste of money in my opinion. Upon taking office, I saw several bills and I started to inquire as to why are these not being dealt with. So I want the public to rest assured that we are busy being careful and also paying attention to things that we do as government in terms of saving money as well. So this will be dealt with. I was also able to speak to the director in regards to potentially coming to St. Martin and giving a sort of a workshop, of which they agreed to and they volunteered to do so within the coming weeks. I'm still awaiting on a confirmation date, and the public will be made available as well, so that they can give a demonstration to various stakeholders within the Ministry of Justice, because all the firearms that we use come from that particular company and they deal with that particular brand as well. Another update is that 27 million has been placed on the capital deeds in the budget for the new construction of a new prison. I got this news from my colleague finance minister when he returned from the Netherlands. So this is also good news. We all know we have an issue in terms of capacity and all these different things that are plaguing us right now in the prison. So this is also a step in the right direction.
Prime Minister Mrs. Sylvia Jacobs says that governing program is being worked on. And during her visit to the Netherlands recently, they are willing to work with the country to assist with a national development plan and what the vision will be.
The governing program is one of the tasks that I am charged with as formateur for the next incoming government. We do know that this interim government had a very short list of requirements that we were expected to carry out. Of course, now having a 4-year term, the governing program is being worked on, and in connection therewith, I had a meeting with the Department of Interior and Kingdom Relations, BAC, known as BAC, which falls under the Ministry of General Affairs, which has been tasked with the responsibility to develop and implement a national development plan. So because we're busy with the governing program, they actually, informed me of this, and we were able to sit and discuss how they can help us to align our governing program so that it falls within the parameters of what is already being worked on. And so the governing program work group will also be privy to some of the guidelines or the parameters of such a plan that is being worked out. And hopefully soon we'll be able to divulge not just what the governing program entails, but also what the national development vision for St. Martin will be.
In replying to questions from the media regarding the swearing in of the new government, The Prime Minister says the formation process has not been finalized and she cannot confirm as it is out of her hands, but she would love to see it finalized before the end of this week.
It always amazes me how reports that I have to create are divulged before they are created. Since I have not finalized the formation report, no, the formation process has not been finalized. We have actually passed our projected date. The date we wanted to be finished with the process was on Monday, the 24th. Today is the 26th. I have my internal deadlines, which I will not be further divulging, because every time I don't meet it, then I would be only disappointing myself and my incoming council. So I will hold back on any new deadlines. I would love to see the process finalized before the end of this week. That is what I would like, but it is out of my hands. We are awaiting reports that come from third parties, and therefore I cannot say that the process is finished. It looks very, very positive, however, for all the candidates involved. And until I have positive confirmation of those reports, that I can say I am at the end and provide His Excellency with my final report, then the process is still not complete, unfortunately. But I must say, in the meantime, in the interim, that the sitting Council of Ministers has been executing at a very high level. Though we are not a full council, we are getting the job done. And I continue to hope and pray that with continuity and 4 years that we'll be able to continue with the job that we have started here in this interim period.
And in other news, the Dutch Foreign Ministry has again updated its travel advice for Italy, advising people not to travel to a number of places in the north of the country near Milan, where the coronavirus has taken hold. In addition, travelers are being warned to be careful if heading for Lombardy, Veneto, and Emilia-Romagna, as well as Rome and Lazio. The ministry said that so far, some 220 people have been infected with coronavirus in Italy, and 7 have died. So far, no cases of the coronavirus, renamed COVID-19, have been identified in the Netherlands. Everyone who visits their doctor with a cough or sneezing and has visited a risk area is currently being tested. None of the 40 people tested in the Netherlands have been found to have the disease, the Public Health Institute said in a press release on Tuesday. And still to come, Member of Parliament Dr. Anders Rodolph Samuel says that there are deficiencies associated with jurisdictions. You'll have the details to that story and more when SXM Daily News returns.
GEBE has been faithfully serving the communities of St. Martin, powering your home and our economy. Come rain or shine, our qualified team of professionals are working hard 24 hours a day to provide you and your family with safe, reliable electricity and water. We use the latest technologies and test our products daily to maintain the highest international standards. Our friendly staff is always there to assist you, whether in person, over the phone, or online. We are committed to constantly improving our products and services, making them more efficient, effective, and environmentally friendly to serve you better today and our next generation of clients tomorrow. GEBE, powering a brighter future.
Our friend Megawati is here with tips to save you energy. 1. Turn your airco temperature up. 2. Use a ceiling fan instead. 3. Buy energy-saving products. Save some green with NVGEBE.
And in this item at this time, Member of Parliament in the opposition, Mrs. Sarah Westcott-Williams, says once the 2020 budget gets to Parliament, all eyes will be on Parliament to get it passed. Because without the 2020 budget, the 2019 budget will still apply. She elaborates.
let me firstly state that I know once the budget gets to Parliament, all eyes are going to be on Parliament to pass the budget 2020 as soon as possible. Because without a budget 2020, then the budget 2019 applies. So knowing this and anticipating the pressure that is going to be put on Parliament for handling the budget as soon as possible, I think we can start the discussion regarding budgetary issues now. And so I will suggest to the government that the government provides Parliament with some documentation even now in order to allow the members of Parliament to peruse the different documentation that should be part of the budgetary process. Documentation that I believe can be very helpful if Parliament was to receive it now would be, for example, the latest financial statements of government-owned companies and government-subsidized foundations. So these do not have to wait on when the government is ready to send the budget to Parliament, but we can receive these, because if you have a 2017, 2018 financial statement of a government-owned company or a foundation, nothing will change those numbers, nothing will change those accounts. So Parliament can, and I believe should, receive that type of information ahead of receiving the budget so that we can have time to peruse these and to formulate positions and questions on them. So these are some of the things that I believe can happen. And as I mentioned, questions have been forwarded to government as far as those are concerned.
And regarding the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force compliance, Mrs. Sarah Westcott-Williams says that the CAFTF compliance is tied into our financial economic situation. Mrs. Westcott says that there is a last piece of legislation, which is a draft that is currently on the table of the Criminal Procedure Code, and this is the last piece of legislation that St. Martin is required to comply with. She further elaborates.
Somewhat tied into the budget, not so much to the budget, but to our financial economic situation, is this ongoing matter regarding the CFATF compliance. As you know, one of the latest pieces of legislation at this time to comply, so that St. Martin can comply, is the draft that is currently on the table of the Criminal Procedure Code. That is, as far as Parliament has received, the last piece of legislation to comply with the recommendations that are there up to now and that St. Martin is required to comply with. The PFP, the USP, and the UD factions in Parliament have requested an urgent public meeting of Parliament to continue the handling of the draft Criminal Procedure Code. We have not yet received an indication when this urgent meeting will be held, but what has happened in the meantime is that on the request of the Minister of Justice, a separate meeting, a separate Central Committee meeting was started to provide information to Parliament regarding this topic. This Central Committee meeting is to continue this week. Our concern, the concern of the factions that I just mentioned, is that these meetings in which the Minister is providing updates have nothing to do with getting the law that is on the table, in getting that passed by Parliament. So we are still insisting on this urgent public meeting to discuss the draft Criminal Procedure Code. And again, we're awaiting to hear when that can happen. And it should not be confused with the continuation of the Central Committee meeting in which the Minister of Justice has been providing the
has been providing the information, updates as he called it, to the members of parliament. So that too is an issue that, again, as a parliament, I believe we need to keep the pressure on. Of course, all eyes again are on parliament. The law is at parliament. What is parliament doing or not doing? And as I reported not too long ago, we cannot keep kicking that can down the road. We have to deal with the fact that this set of recommendations by the CFATF have been put by successive governments in our Criminal Procedure Code.
And in other news at this time, Member of Parliament Dr. Anders Rodolph Samuel spoke about the deficiencies associated with the jurisdictions and the concerns that the CAFTF has. The CAFTF has recognized the progress made by St. Martin, but they are concerned about St. Martin's failure of not addressing the money laundering risk arising with terrorism regime. He elaborates further.
I have before me a public statement on St. Martin at the plenary session of the CFATF from November 27th, 2019. And it says, jurisdiction with strategic AML/CFT deficiencies that has not made sufficient progress in addressing the deficiencies. The CFATF calls on its members to consider the risk arising from the deficiencies associated with the jurisdictions as described below. And then they mention St. Martin. The CFATF recognizes the progress made by St. Martin to date in addressing the deficiencies identified in its mutual evaluation report. However, the CFATF is concerned by St. Martin's failure to address remaining deficiencies in its anti-money laundering and combating financing of terrorism regime after the high-level mission that visited the country on August 24, 2018, and the plenary requirements to overcome such deficiencies by February 2019, which has not been achieved as verified at the CFATF May and November 2019's meeting. The CFATF urges St. Martin to immediately address the AML/CFT deficiencies, including bringing the necessary outstanding legislation into force and effect. And Mr. Chairman, when I read including bringing the necessary outstanding legislation, that means that Parliament is to pass a legislation. It also means that the CFATF is waiting on a legislation to be passed. And I say this because I also understand that it is the intention of St. Martin to show by way of policies, to show by way of custom, that St. Martin is living up to the recommendations for that is required by the CFATF.
Now turning to our weather forecast. A tight pressure gradient is producing a slight increase in winds across the region. Meanwhile, low-level moisture associated with a surface trough and a recent frontal boundary will increase the chance for showers within the local area. Moderate sea conditions are expected with waves up to 7 feet. Small craft operators and sea bathers are advised to exercise caution. Now let's turn now to our 3-day forecast. And still to come, Chairman of Parliament Rolando Bryson reacts to the minister's proposed labor law. We'll have the details to that story and more when SXM Daily News returns.
Make use of WIB mobile banking with easy access and direct usage of face recognition, PIN code, or fingerprint. Download WIB mobile banking app and make your transaction from anywhere at any time. For more information, visit wib-bank.net/quick-login.
Chairman of Parliament, Mr. Rolando Bryson, speaking at the parliamentary meeting of February the 17th regarding the proposed labor permits for locals, the Chairman of Parliament says he doesn't think that the impression, unfortunately, can be created out there that when members of Parliament question a labor policy automatically means that you have an issue with getting opportunities for locals.
I don't think the impression, unfortunately, can be created out there that when members of Parliament question a labor policy, that it automatically means that you have an issue with getting opportunities for locals. I think you have heard from many members of Parliament today, Minister, that I think everyone here knows we need to do everything we can and make the right decisions to promote better opportunities for our locals. And I stand by that as well. That is also my opportunity, or my opinion. However, the question that summarizes what I have to ask is the how. It is not the what. I think in essence, we can agree on the what. Yes, we need to do things. But how we do things, often sometimes, is where members of Parliament will use their discretion to say we need to look deeply at how it's being proposed to be done. Now, I want to start by using, because the first thing I was hoping for and seeking from was, I think other MPs mentioned it, the data. And the number that I keep getting, that has been repeated pretty often, is the labor force survey, which is about 6,600, a little more than 6,600 people. We've heard that the Consumer Coalition estimates it much higher. But the fact that you have a labor survey saying one thing and another that's completely someplace else doesn't necessarily tell me that one is right or wrong. It just tells me that we have a problem with the data, because it cannot be such a huge discrepancy and that it means that, well, let's just choose which one is correct. There is an issue with data. And I would like to ask this because this is the tricky thing that we have to be careful with. When you look at 6,600 people, how many of those are locals? Because if on the one breath we're saying we want to give jobs for locals, that's what we all unanimously here, I can say, want for our people. But if you're using statistics that include illegals, then what you're actually doing is basically defeating your own purpose. So I want to understand clearly, does that 6,600 include the people that we say we want to protect and give jobs to only? So not people residing illegally and so on, because then that would defeat the purpose.
And still on the proposed labor permits for locals, Anti-Poverty Platform member Dr. Anders Raymond Gisseroen, in answering a question from a member of the media regarding some of the statistics of the labor force survey, that the stats may not be consistent, Mrs. Gisseroen had this to say.
But to answer MP Bryson, that's actually to answer the public too. From a member of parliament, we expect that they respect the human right of every citizen in this country. So, when the Statistical Bureau of the Ministry of Tourism and Economic Affairs does research, uses all the standards of research, and they come up with figures, first thing we have to do is respect our own researchers, our own locals that we sent abroad to qualify for them to do the research, and to respect them in the work that they have been doing. That's the first thing we have to do. The second thing we have to do, and especially when you are a member of parliament in representation of the people, you have to represent all the citizens in this country. Discrimination among citizens in this country on no basis is allowed. And so, especially from a member of parliament, we expect that they do not come with questions to discriminate among persons in this society, but to respect the right to full employment in this society. The question of MP Bryson was insinuating that we had to leave all the undocumented persons in this society out of the research, out of the reality that they all are paying TOT. Ridiculous. From the one hand, you want their money, their tax money, for you to get your MP salary of $10,000 a month. And on the other hand, you don't want them to have the right to work in this society.
And still to come, BOC continues plastic-free campaign. We'll have the details to that story and more when SXM Daily News returns.
Hi, what's up, St. Martin? My name is Rene Leverett, and I play baseball. And I've represented St. Martin in numerous international tournaments and professionally around the world. Sports matters to me because it reveals and develops character. So I challenge the business community to step up for sports and help us rebuild and repair our facilities. I also ask the community to nominate local businesses in your area to take the challenge and step up for sports. Because #sports matters, #are you in?
And finally, for this evening, the Department of Interior and Kingdom Relations, BOC, continues their awareness campaign under the slogan, St. Martin Plastic Free by 2023. In the coming weeks, the Plastic Free by 2023 campaign will actively engage the community and schools. In addition, BOC initiated 2 school competitions, thereby actively involving our students in the awareness and the process of being plastic free by 2023. The first competition is a creative logo competition in which students are asked to design a logo for plastic free by 2023 per school. A logo will be selected for the final winning round through social media. I'm Valerie Van Putten. Just a reminder that this and other programs are available online. Simply log on to stmartinmediacenter.com for viewing. And on behalf of the SXM Daily News team, we thank you for watching and plan on meeting you back here again tomorrow.